What is good? Osiris here, stuck in the middle. And Eric Adams made some statements recently about Black Lives Matter that I think he got credit for in by certain people that I'm not there to give him credit on. You might think I would. I thought I might, looking at these comments, like, oh, these might be comments where our interests align. And I'm very big on, even if I'm not a fan of Eric Adams, it's irrelevant. If our interests align, then I'm all for it. But no, right now on this topic here, believe it or not, I align more with Black Lives Matter local chapter New York. And that's a chapter I've really gone hard on. Hawk Newsom and I have even exchanged words on Twitter. But I'm on Eric Adams right now on this. He's the failure in this aspect. What happened is Eric Adams recently came out and said, I thought Black Lives mattered. And he slammed the activist movement over New York City crime. When asked how his administration would get a handle on an uptick in shootings, Mayor Eric Adams criticized the Black Lives Matter movement Wednesday for failing to mount large-scale protests against ongoing gun violence. So you stop there and listen to that. No. I'm not for the protests for anything like this. So that's how the protests turned into riots. So he says, well, why don't you go and protest the basically black on black crime that's going in the inner city? Well, why don't we do something that has substance to it? Like, you can protest, that's fine, as long as you keep it peaceful, but that doesn't have substance. So what did the protests after George Floyd get us? It got us riots and nothing. So how is Eric Adams, and Eric Adams was not for the protest for Floyd, at least as far as the riots go. So why is he encouraging it for the black on black, as this is what he's describing in the inner city? Eric Adams said, if Black Lives Matter, then the thousands of people I saw on the street when Floyd was murdered should be on the streets right now, stating that the lives of these black children that are dying every night matter, Adams says. We can't be hypocrites. He went on to say, by being consistent with our message, here is my question that I put out to the city. I thought Black Lives mattered. Where are all those who stated Black Lives mattered? Then go do an analysis of who was killed or shot last night. I was up all night speaking to my commanders in the Bronx and Brooklyn. The victims were black. Many of the shooters were black. Why are 16, 17, 18-year-olds out on our streets armed with guns at midnight or 1 a.m.? This is hollow. Some of it is, I agree with some of it, but my bigger problem is these are hollow comments. And you might say, well, what do you want him to say? He could say whatever the hell he wants to say, but what somebody would say who is authentic about this, in my opinion, would say, what the hell does it matter what color people are? We've got 16, 17, 18-year-olds out there who are in gangs, probably have a difficult family structure, probably not steeped in education, schools probably failing, and they are victim to these organizations of violence. And then you've got people who get shot, and the young people and the children and the babies and the kids. Who cares if a little kid gets shot? Who cares what color they are? That's what I would say. Don't give a damn what color they are. It's wrong. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm trying to do. And here's where I could use the help of Black Lives Matter. Instead, he said, well, why aren't you protesting? Well, number one, Eric Adams, what's your plan? Is it educate? I would start with education. What's your plan, Eric Adams? And then you can say, if you really want to have a productive discussion, then you would say, Black Lives Matter, here's how you can help. I don't look at this as color, but if you want to help, here's how you can help. So I align more with Hawk Newsom on this one. Hawk Newsom talked about they've got some programs to help de-escalation and patrol the city. I don't know if these are good or positive, but at least on this topic, Hawk Newsom has the higher moral ground than me. Eric Adams, what's your damn plan? And then tell me how other people can help. And then you can say, this ain't about color. Because when you start saying black this and black that, and that's what Eric Adams is saying, I think non-black people can tell me, my impression is, I think it goes in one ear and out the other. You're like, oh, it's black on black. That ain't got nothing to do with me. That's why I talk about the flag and the patriotism, and I have the flag with the heart, because it's like, damn, I don't care what color it is. It's a problem. I, this is so disingenuous and hollow coming from Eric Adams. When Eric Adams took office, one of the first things that happened is Hawk Newsom and Black Lives Matter ran up in there and they were trying to bulldoze him. And I wasn't for that. I wasn't for either. I've never been for either one of them. But Hawk Newsom ran up in the office and tried to put these demands on Eric Adams because Eric Adams was elected in part because he was an ex-cop and was going to be hard on crime. And Black Lives Matter is like, they're in this weird place where it's like, we hate the police, but we want to talk about the violence. It's just weird to the positions that they're in. But since he was an ex-cop, hard on violence, Hawk Newsom and them felt like they had to step up and check him. So they had this mano-y-mano. That's what this is about. It's about going after Black Lives Matter, not going after the subject matter. You know, Eric Adams talked about the bill that people labeled Don't Say Gay. He's in New York. He talked about that bill. So, you know what, Eric Adams, why are you talking about a topic in Florida when you're in New York? That doesn't make sense. So let me throw out another topic. Since we're talking about topics that ain't got nothing to do with you, Buffalo is a lot closer than Florida. And where I'm going is Lieutenant Colonel Alan West went to a conference to talk about, his title was America is Not Racist, which is a kind of a clickbaitist topic. But his big push was like, I value the traditional home with the father and mother. He doesn't diss any other style of homes. He just says we need two people in the household. So Eric Adams, you could bring that up too. Since you're talking about Florida, what Lieutenant Colonel Alan West talked about in Buffalo is more pertinent to this topic, the biggest problem in your city, than it is the Don't Say Gay bill. It's hollow. It's just an attempt for him to deflect and go after Hawk Newsom, where they had this battle for control. It's ridiculous. Then why are we even talking about color? Who cares? That's the same thing that divides us, that says the protests and riots that happened after Floyd died, people said, this is the voice of people who don't feel like they have a voice. This is the action of people who don't feel like they have a voice in our country. And that's what they said. And then J6 happened. And my take on it was, it looks like, just like Black Lives Matter, whether I agree or not is irrelevant. There's a voice that we need to hear. And then J6 happened. I said, wow, it sounds like there's voices on both sides or different sides of the spectrum. And most people probably were white. It wasn't all white in J6, but the impression is Black Lives Matter is a black thing. J6 is a white thing. So the white thing can't say we're a voice that hasn't been heard. So why don't you look at those two things in a similar manner and say, okay, let me hear both of you out? No, the reason why is because of race. And Eric Adams plays right into that. I'm giving him zero credit for these comments. It's disingenuous. And I'm going to end with this. Another way to prove that these comments are disingenuous. This is so disgusting to me. Trevor Noah did that piece a while back on this happened with Kyrie Irving. So it exposed pandemic policy hypocrisy, or things that just didn't make sense. So Trevor Noah did a piece on Kyrie Irving was not allowed to play a home game in Brooklyn. He wasn't allowed to play with the team, but he bought a ticket to the exact same game and sat in the stands, and that was okay. Because it was this weird law with athletes and performers. Because it was like, if you didn't have the V, then you couldn't work, basically. But he could be a fan. And Trevor Noah made this big thing about it. Like, none of this stuff from the pandemic made sense from the beginning for 2 years. And this is the topic that makes you rise up, Trevor Noah? A rich guy who had to buy a ticket in the stands? Of course it didn't make any sense. But did it make you look under the layers to see what happens to the common person if this is what's happening to the rich, influential player for the sports team of the city? This is what happens. April 11th reported, this was on Fox News, New York City waitress fired over V mandate after Mayor Adams exempts athletes and performers. You think this guy cares about black lives? He's firing them because they didn't take the experimental drug. And he's going to lecture somebody? He's going to lecture me on black people?
It's heinous. I mean, what Mayor Adams has done it shows us that the workers and plebeians don't matter. That because we're not millionaires, we have no value, no worth, and mostly that we are dispensable.
Former Yankee Stadium waitress fired for not getting the COVID shot is now accusing New York City Mayor Eric Adams of a double standard in a class action suit as he allows unvaccinated.
Just complete nonsense. He's empty. He's an empty shell, an empty suit. He's an embarrassment. And nobody holds him to account to explain for this. Like, there's a press conference with the media. Nobody asks, well, you're firing people over a V mandate, and you're trying to purport yourself as like some grandiose Black Lives, like caring about Black lives in the city? Get the hell out of here.